morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I just realized I didn't have my mic muted while I was doing my pre-streamy business. So if you heard, I don't know, any sort of mumblings and grumblings, you're welcome. I don't know. My apologies, probably better than that one. We are here. Happy Tuesday. Me and the Bubba are hanging out. Hey? Say hello, Shadow. He's like, no, I don't want to. Look at this long boy. Anyways, we're back. The final week of Studio Ghibli month. The first week of now surpassing the 200 follower threshold, which I'm so happy about. Thank you guys once again for being so fabulous and supportive. And yes, as you can see, we have this last little quadrant to go. And I'm so excited. Here, I'll show you guys the pattern so you can see all that has been grayed out is what has been completed. This is the final frontier. We have 1 week. I'm hoping that we can work on this again on the Friday. And I'm hoping that that will mean us transitioning to page 2. Because I'll be damned if we spend the entire Studio Ghibli month only working on a single page of Howl's Moving Castle. So that's what the plan is. That's what we're going to be doing. Oh, an update. Because last Friday, we didn't end up finishing Gigi because there was just so much excitement and chaos going on. I was meant to finish him earlier in the week, but I decided to binge watch Snowpiercer instead. Not all the episodes, but just a bunch. Yeah. I neglected. So I was working on him today. He's not 100% finished. I still have to work on this eye. I'm not entirely happy with the shape. And I still don't know if I'm going to include a mouth or not. I tried to just do like a little tone-on-tone smile line like in the image that we were referencing, but it doesn't really look like anything. So we shall see. But here, I'll show you. These are, here's the GCU currently. And if you guys don't know, No Face will be joining us on Thursday. That's going to be our final Ghibli GCU needle felted creation. I did a poll over on Instagram. We had 4 choices. It was either going to be Tato the Fox Squirrel from Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind, No Face the Kodama from Princess Mononoke, or one of the robot soldiers from Laputa Castle in the Sky. And resoundingly, overwhelmingly, everyone voted for No Face. I think bar one person. So that's what we're doing. We are drinking chai tea. We got our tea. Oh, it's nice and warm right now, too. That won't last very long, I'm sure. All right, without further ado, let's just jump into it. So, we were a tad late today. We weren't that bad. I had, I want to say builders, I guess. Basically, we were having issues with our garage door. And so Liam called the people who installed it. And they were like, oh, like we can come, like thinking we'll send an email and people will come by, you know, in a couple of weeks or whatever. But they got back to us and they were like, there's literally people from the company on a job like 10 minutes away from you. We'll send them over to kind of take a look at it. So the goal was as long as they came here and did their shiz before 3 so that I could be here. So we were running a little bit over schedule, but it all worked out. It was kind of awkward though because like we have a doorbell on our garage, but it's like a little bit like touch and go, like whether or not it wants to work or not. So it's not something that we trust very well. And so when they first got there, they rang it worked. They went out and I was like, okay, like here's the situation. So they said, you go back inside in the warm, and then we'll just ring the doorbell when we're done. But of course, I didn't fully trust the doorbell, so I didn't want to like do stuff and then miss it or something like that. So I just kind of sat on the sofa, awkward turtle, like just kind of waiting for them to be done. I did a bit of like, I don't know, like scrolling and stuff, which sort of helped pass the time. But then Shadow was confused because he could tell that there were people in the garage and was like, I want to go say hi. But also, like, Mom's being weird and not, like, it's dead quiet in the house. Like, I didn't even put the TV on because I was like, what if I can't hear them? So, yeah, that was just me being awkward as hell. But it's all worked out now. The main thing is they fixed a couple bits. Like, nothing's broken. If anything, it's more on our end that we need to, like, clean the base of the garage door because there's, like, sensors there. And if there's, like, too much sludge and grit in there, then it can, like, mess with things, which makes sense, but we just wanted to make sure that there was no mechanical issues, just because it's only it happened a couple times. Basically, the reason why this happened was because I took Shadow for a walk this morning, and for some reason he wanted to go on a massive adventure, but I was like, we're not getting lost for an hour and a half like we did the other day, so we kept it simple despite the fact it was a bit longer. But we usually go out the back, and then when we got back and I pressed my little fob to let us back in, it wasn't working. So luckily we have a little side entrance, but you kind of need to, I basically had to like scale the side of the fence to unlatch a little side door to let us back in the house, which, yeah, I'm sure that looked interesting for any passerbys. Luckily there was no one to witness this, and Shadow was probably like, why is Mom scaling the side of the fence? But we got in, and then I checked, and it looked like the sensor that communicates with the fob was off. So you did the old turn it off and on again, and that seemed to work. But obviously, like, if there's a bigger issue, I would like us not to be turning it on and off again all the time. So that's what prompted the email, which then prompted the visit. So it was pretty wild because it's like very rare here that builders actually, I guess to be fair, this is more of like an installation company. They're not like your standard builders, because we just find that we were talking to friends of ours about this on the weekend, that I don't know what it is about UK builders and their like inability to communicate. If any of you are builders or no builders, like, my apologies. But there just seems to be a real consistent thing here where, yeah, like, there's just very little communication in terms of, like, if they're available or not. I just realized that this is completely skew with. Let me fix this. But yeah, just, like, not saying they'll turn up and then not turning up and then not communicating, like, why. It's like, you know, it doesn't matter, shit, like, life happens. It doesn't matter if you say, oh, I'm gonna turn up tomorrow, and then they don't. But then at least followed up with being like, I'm really sorry something came up, to at least, you know what I mean? So yeah, not the case. But yeah, these guys, they're like, yeah, whatever, we're around, we'll stop by today. It's like, that's unheard of. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mambo number 5. Oh, you okay, dude? Oh, someone decided to move to the futon. I get it. It's probably much comfier over there. But yeah. So that was the events of the last 2 hours. Morning, cat! How you doing today? Hope you had a good weekend. 1, 2, 3, over 1. 2, 3, over 1. We are, well, yeah, I am determined. This is the last quarter of the project, so. And I also noticed too, there's like what, 2, 4, 6, 8 just blank things. There's no stitches, so that's exciting. So it's not full coverage, which is helpful. Oh, that's not where I wanted to go. 1, 2. Poured out of my skull, going through my Google Sheets and deleting the ones I don't need anymore. Yeah, I'm sure the entire, like, Thanksgiving week is, like, a write-off where you are, eh? Right? Yeah. Because are people still, because I guess, too, like, are people still coming in? It's just completely slow, but I guess you still need to be there. That's sort of like over Christmas when I was working for a company, and it's like a lot smaller of a like we were seeing like clients and stuff, and over the Christmas like kind of 2-week period that stopped, and they kind of just need like a skeleton crew to just be in the office in case people come in. And so one year I ended up doing that, and yeah, I was pretty bored out of my skull as well. Oh, the whole office is there. That's awesome. You have stuff to do in the house. You have to go, right? You have like Thanksgiving prep you need to be doing. So you're like, yeah. Oh, that's so frustrating when you know you could be more productive at home, but you just basically have to sit at work for 8 hours and like twiddle your thumbs when you're like, I could be doing a lot more productivity somewhere else. You're like, I got stuff to do. Oh, that's awesome. Is that including getting the week off for Christmas, or is that in addition to? That'll be nice. That'll be a nice break. Oh my god. Bless your mom. Nothing's gonna stand between her and smoked turkey. That's incredible. Wow. No, I know. You just had mentioned that you had requested it off, so I didn't know if you had already gotten that leave and then you also had 11 days, or if that was the 11 days was including the week off you requested. Do you know what I mean? But I guess in a way that is also the 11 days for the end of the year. Maybe my bad. Yeah. No. Oh, damn. It's 11 in total. Gotcha. I understand. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, does it normally go up there? Like, did you start with less? Because that's a thing here where it's sort of like you are entitled to certain days sort of when you start, and then like the longer you are with the company, the sort of more days you can accrue up to a certain limit. You know what I mean? Okay, yeah. Still though, 15 years and all you've gotten is 2 weeks. That's frustrating. For a whole year, that's not enough. That's not enough at all. Year 1, you get 1 week. 2 years, you get 2 weeks. And then 15 years, you get 3. Okay, so what is it? Next year? So you're going to be... That'll be nice. Jesus, you have to work... Ugh. Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot of, like... That's like... You know when you're, like, in a video game and you have to grind? That's what I feel like working to get vacation is. I just feel like you're grinding for, what, 25 years of your life just to get them? 4 more years until I get 3 weeks. Oh, no! 4 more years. Jesus. I thought maybe that was a bit closer. That's annoying. You're like, you might be retired by the time you get your 4 weeks. That's silly. Is that standard, like, across the board? And then, I guess, like, if there's different companies that maybe will offer different things? Or is your company actually generous? You know what I mean? Like, are they doing the standard? Or is it, like, actually, most people where you live get, like, nothing. And then you actually get more than average. It's always so strange to me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what I mean, right? It's the standard for most companies is a lot more. Is that must be a state thing, eh? That your state maybe doesn't provide that? That's so frustrating. I think that's one of the things that, like, really sort of perplexed me a bit from like working sort of like a standard job is that I guess especially too because obviously I have my family lives in another country, and so the thought of like if something were to happen to them and I wouldn't be allowed to just drop everything to be with them, you know what I mean? Like obviously there's certain circumstances here where I think they have like, you know, a couple days of like bereavement something or like whatever, right? But it's like I'm not gonna fly out to Canada for 2 days. So I think a lot of times in those instances, like I've had things before where I've just like started with a company. I've only had, you know, like less than a week of holiday, and then I've said, well, I'm going to Canada for 2 weeks, can I have the rest unpaid? And sometimes jobs will do that, but it's like I think in some instances it's probably like not, it's like they'll let you do that but they won't be happy about it, you know what I mean? And so yeah, I've never, like that's something I've always really struggled with in that sort of environment, is the thought of like, okay, if I need to drop everything and go, I want to have that option, and traditional working environments don't really give me that, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. It's compassionate leave, but I think again compassion leave is only like a few days, and also as well there has to be like, I remember this because this was happening to a friend of mine when I was working, and it's like unless the person is on their deathbed expected to pass, it's really difficult to get that compassionate leave. But again, it could be different places that do that. Can't even take more than a week off at a time. Really? Yeah, I know my partner, like Liam, can't take more than 2 weeks off in a row. More than 1 week. That's silly though. How are you supposed to, because especially a lot of things too, like if you are in a position where you're even traveling across the country, you know what I mean? Like if you're going to another state, you want to like have a bit more time than that. That's really silly. And, like the corporate shenanigans. Yeah. Right? Exactly. I guess because it's one of those where it's like they theoretically can work anywhere. But that's the other thing too. That's why Google She's excellent. Excellent. I'm glad, Kat. But yeah, that's always the thing that I find so frustrating about how corporations seem to have abandoned the idea of the work from home model despite the fact that it was so successful. Everyone's like really obsessed with trying to make office culture happen again, whereas it's like I think a lot of people actually had a much better work-life balance when they were working from home. Some people didn't. Some people had the opposite, where the work-life balance went out the window because of that. But I think some people did have that option. And then it's like if, you know, you work in a big corporate job in like a downtown central, but like it's exponentially more expensive to live there. If you're doing the option of working from home, then you can afford to move outside of the catchment area because you can still do your work. You know what I mean? And I know a few people that have done that, where like a friend of mine, her brother was working like in London, but he was from up north. And then when all this work from home stuff happened and everyone was like, yeah, you can work from home, he's like, well, I'm paying stupid amounts of rent. I'll just move back home up north because I can still remote into work. And they were like, yeah, no problem, that's great. But of course now all the companies are like changing their tune and being like, well, we expect you in at least twice a week now. We expect this of you. And he's like, but okay. So then it's like trying to have that balance of like, okay, so I'm gonna spend this much money to get back into the city despite the fact that I don't live there anymore. I don't know, it just seems like really complicated. And it's like, for the only benefit is for like upper management to physically see you, and it's like, guys, like, I don't know, I find it really stupid. Once Chris gets his official full-time job after he graduating, going part-time, that's gonna be lovely. Does that impact your vacation days though? That's the only thing that would worry me. But I guess if you're working part-time, you're only in a couple days a week, so then the other days would just be like, you could then, you know what I mean? So I guess if you have a week's worth of holiday, but you're only working 3 days a week, then you can have those 7 days plus the 2 days that you're like not technically working. Fair enough. Absolutely, right? You're like, what are you going to do? I appreciate that. You must be counting down the days when hubby actually gets his full-time gig. Yeah. He's full-time now. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's that sort of waiting for that moment, eh? Because it's having to make it worth it, right? Because sometimes it's like those opportunities come up and it's like, but it's not enough to justify it, but it sounds like his will be, which will be such an awesome thing. So I am saying that this is the last week of Studio Ghibli month. Technically, we have one more Tuesday, but this will be the last week of crafting because Tuesday, the last day of November Ghibli month, stream day, is going to be our penultimate movie ranking. So I finally finished all of my Ghibli films. And instead of doing the traditional like A, B, C, D tier list, because like 80% of the films were in either A tier or B tier for me, I'm deciding to do like a traditional 23-to-1 ranking situation. So I tried putting them all sort of in a ranking order the other day, and it was a little bit of a struggle. Some of them are a little bit of a blur to me, so I feel like there's certain ones that I'm like, you absolutely belong at this number on the list. Other ones I feel like are open to a little bit of interpretation, so who knows, maybe we jostle the list around if people have opinions. I think that would be fair. Because I'm like, I feel like this movie goes here, but it theoretically could also go here. We'll see. I have to write a rude letter to customers. You don't want it because you don't like being rude or because you just can't be bothered? Because mine would be that I don't like confrontation and don't like being rude. Oh, Aurora, thank you so much for... I don't even know what level that is. Yeah, same. I would struggle with that. I don't like being rude either. Awesome, awesome. Oh, it's been annoying. I haven't been able to actually practice the piano in in about a week now. Because what's happening is as we're acquiring, like, presents and things for, like, Christmas and stuff, that's, like, the spare room that we stick everything in. And there's only so many surfaces to put stuff on that Shadow can't get to. And things are, like, soft or whatever. The other day, a friend of mine, like, gave me a bunch of, like, pillow stuffing because she was going to do something with it. And then she was like, I'm not going to do that anymore. Could you craft with it? And I'm like, yeah, probably. Like, let me have it. And it was on a little side table. And you best believe Shadow was trying his damnedest to rip that open and, like, explode that floof all over the place. So we had to move it. So basically a bunch of stuff are currently stacked on top of the piano, so I cannot currently play said piano unless I, like, move things around. So I'll have to find another surface for some of these things to then make it a bit easier. Yeah. Yeah, especially, yeah, letter form is obviously really kind of crappy. It's like getting broken up with via text, you know what I mean? You would want to have that in person. I guess the only reason that would happen is that if you've attempted multiple calls and the person isn't, like, responding to calls, you know what I mean? I know in some certain, like, lines of work or whatever. It's like they'll do like the phone call or they'll do the letter and they'll do kind of multiple instances and they sort of eventually have to keep escalating it. So I don't know if that's the situation you're in, but yeah, I would struggle with that. So I've been thinking about sort of what I want my theme for December to be, because one of the things I've realized is that I've quite enjoyed having themes to my months. I think especially when it comes to needle felting, because it's just balls of wool. You could literally felt anything you can think of. It's like, you know, the possibilities are endless. And endless possibilities are quite overwhelming to me, where it's like, you know, you have all of the options, so then it's difficult to sort of come up with anything. So I've really enjoyed having like this, for instance, being Studio Ghibli month, that it's like, okay, there's only a certain number of things I could pull from that I think I would, one, be interested in needle felting, and two, I think would like work well needle felted. So I'm, debating. I don't want to do, because again, I think I've been pretty open about this. I'm not like huge on Christmas and like Christmas iconography and stuff like that. So even if I were to do sort of like a wintry themed thing, like I think I would struggle with inspiration, if you will. So yeah, I've been trying to like think of different potential theme ideas for the month of December. I think I have settled on one. I'm still, unless another option comes into my brain, I think the one that's currently in my head is what we're gonna go with. But we'll see. And then the other thing that's helpful too is also, if I go with the theme in my brain, I already have a current cross stitch work in progress that is on theme. So then we could continue to work on that next month. And then I also feel like I'm getting my whip pile down, you know, instead of starting a new project, being like a rut-row, the whip pile is growing. Yeah, I'm quite enjoying a theme. So I don't know if I'll spoil it for myself. I'm thinking of doing just Disney for the month of December. I think especially for me, again, I'm not a super Christmassy person, but one of the things that has become like, was sort of like a low-key tradition in my family is on Christmas Day, when we were opening presents and stuff, we would listen to these specific Disney soundtracks. There's like a specific compilation. I think they were like 25-year anniversary CDs. And we would listen to those while we unwrapped Christmas presents and stuff. So I still find, and then of course too, like with Christmas and end of the year, it's like nostalgic and whatever. And I still have my Princess Jasmine cross stitch that I need to work on. So that might be a good way to kind of kill two birds with one stone. So yeah, that's what and then also too, it's sort of like Ghibli adjacent, because Disney owned the rights for a lot of the Ghibli dubs. But yeah, so that's what I think. I'm like 99% sure that that's what the plan is going to be. The thing with that though, obviously, is I need to sort of scale down, because Disney as a whole is quite broad. I don't think I'm going to, for instance, be like needle felting Disney princesses anytime soon, but probably like little side characters or something like that, might be an option. Yeah, where do they have it with you? Because right now, in the UK, they have, they were on HBO Max. Because yeah, thankfully in the UK, they're on Netflix. Aside from Grave of Fireflies, which I had to buy on Amazon Prime. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, thankfully here they're all on Netflix, which is nice. But yeah, I wish they were. It's weird to me that they're actually not on Disney Plus, especially now because there's a new animated short that Studio Ghibli helped produce, and it's Grogu and the Soot Sprites together in a little like animated short. So I'm like, well, you have like new IP. You should like repossess your sort of old IP. But maybe they yeah, I don't know. But also too, I think there's also different dubs. So Netflix might have the rights to the dubs, because I know in the UK, like for instance, Arrietty, I noticed in the States, the British kind of Disney dub was done by a bunch of like Disney Channel kids. So like David Henry from Wizards of Waverly Place and Bridget Medler from Good Luck Charlie. They were sort of the main voice actors in Arrietty. But there was a British dub where Saoirse Ronan and I think Timothy Chalamet were... No, it was Tom Holland and Saoirse Ronan that were the voices of the main characters in Arrietty. So maybe, too, there could be a thing where, like, Netflix owns the rights to those dubs, but Disney owns the rights to the other dubs, and then that makes it a bit confusing about, like, intellectual property or whatever. I don't know. That's just my theory. But, yeah, it was really cute. This little short. It's like beautifully animated. It's kind of like, it's very like sketch-like. Yeah. Additionally as well, I don't know if I think I ended up putting that in the thing, but I think what's going to happen is I want to finish out Studio Ghibli month before we do our celebratory 200 follower giveaway. So I'm looking at this week we finish our crafting. On the 29th, we do our video ranking, our movie rankings, and then the first week of December, which would be our first and second, literally the first few days in December, we'll then do our follower giveaways. I'm not sure if, to be fair, what'll probably happen, maybe because I'm lame, I don't know, I'll work it out, but I was like, I think I'll probably just do a regular stream style, like I'll do my regular sort of scheduled programming, but just throw giveaways in every hour over the 3 hours over the 2 days, because I think we have 7 things to give away. Like 7 main things to give away. So if we do, obviously, 3 each day plus like a bonus one, then I think that will work. But who knows? Maybe we'll do something a bit more grand. But I don't want to like go out of my way to like do something crazy and zany when like I would say 90% of the time the vibe here is very chill and cozy. So it doesn't really make sense to it doesn't really make sense for me and to step away from that vibe, because that's the vibe. If that makes sense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, go get the letter approved. I hope you tried to make it as nicely rude as possible. Like take a bit of the edge off. I trust that you can do that. I'm really excited. Pretzel Rocks has given me not 1 but 2 chill channels for this week. We have Chill Jazz, which we're listening to right now, and then Chill Pop. But I feel like the Chill Jazz is very Ghibli-esque to me. This is kind of reminding me a bit of like the Porco Rosso soundtrack. Which, if you guys have not seen Porco Rosso, highly recommend. Like, people, I feel like, sleep on that film. That's actually one of my favorites in terms of Ghibli IP. So I was thinking, last time we spoke, I updated you on all of the on the first of the 2 doggy meetups, right? And how Shadow was not a big fan of our friend's dog, Millie. But on the Sunday, we went for a dog walk with our friends, and I think I told you guys this was happening. We finally met their 3-year-old golden retriever, Mitch. And while we were at the dog park, Shadow and him were, like, playing really well together. You know, they were running around, interacting with other dogs, but, like, would kind of check up on each other a little bit. All that kind of stuff. We thought we thoroughly had tired them out, and they were just going to hang out on the sofa for the rest of the afternoon, which Shadow did. Shadow wanted to lay on the sofa for the rest of the afternoon. But I think Mitch was just so excited to be in a different house that he was like a pretty hyper boy the entire time, much to our friends' dismay, because they thought, you know, he had a big old runaround that he'd be quite zonked, but that doesn't seem to be the case. But they warned us that the way that Mitch plays with toys is he likes to destroy them, so they have a hard time sort of keeping all their toys in the house because Mitch tends to destroy them and it gets quite expensive. So he doesn't have very many. And so we were like, Shadow doesn't do that with his toys. If anything, he still has like all of his puppy toys because like they're all fine, but like he just doesn't play with them. So he has like 2 boxes of toys. He only really plays with a few of them. So we were like, honestly, like Mitch can have, you know what I mean? Like Mitch is welcome to them. There's very few toys that like we're sentimentally, like I'm sentimentally attached to. I don't think Liam's attached to any of them. There's very few toys that I would be upset if Mitch destroyed, is what it is. So they were like, are you sure? Is it okay? And eventually we did need to remove the toys from the room because Mitch would go in and grab one and then he'd play with it and then he'd want another one and they'd be like, play with the toy you have. So there were, I think, 3 casualties, which isn't bad. There were 3 toy casualties. There was almost a 4th, but that one was a bit special, so we did save that one. Because I told you how Shadow has this toy pig that he's obsessed with because his Uncle Rebel had a toy pig that my in-laws played with him, so we got him his own. And Millie also really enjoyed the pig, so we were like, oh, maybe Mitch will as well. And sure enough, absolutely loved it. And he was actually playing very gently with it, just like had it in his mouth and was carrying it around the house and stuff. But then he started really kind of getting at it. So Pig has a couple holes in his nose now. So we might need to retire. We might need to get a new pig because I think Pig's nose might fall off. And I don't know how that affects his squeakability, if you will. Yeah, so far he's all right. But yeah, we had to confiscate Piggy from Mitch. And then Pumpkin, so Shadow's jack-o'-lantern, totally ripped in it, Squeaker pulled out of it, so that one. And then he has this monkey, and Monkey's now missing an arm. Monkey's limb has been sacrificed to the cause. And then so those ones were like the sort of bigger ones, the ones that he like kind of played with. But again, Shadow's completely indifferent to all of this happening, right? He's like, yeah, whatever, this dog has my toys, like I don't care, I just want to have a nap. Like he didn't guard his toys at all, like he's not interested. If anything, neither of them really cared because Shadow stole Mitch's like bone that he was chewing on, and Mitch was kind of like, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna play with your toys. And Shadow was like, ooh, I like this bone, I'm gonna have that. And then yeah, apparently that's just the thing that he does. And it's interesting because like I know, because again, like my in-laws had a black lab, and Rebel never really destroyed his toys, but my father-in-law's dad, so Liam's granddad, had a dog as well, like another lab. They were both labs, but this one, Muttley, he always destroyed his toys to the point where like we would try to buy him those like super tough industrial toys, and like they wouldn't last like more than like 15 minutes, and Muttley would have found a hole and already started pulling stuff out of it. So I guess that's what Mitch's MO is as well, is he's little Mr. Destructo Man. Yeah, so yeah, there were a few casualties, but then yeah, Shadow, we still have it. Shadow took Mitch's bone, and they were like, that's fine. And again, yeah, neither of them really cared about that, but the biggest thing was that, you know, Shadow just wanted to, he's such a little introvert, eh? He like had his big playtime with Mitch, and they went back, you know, had a big run around, and then he was like, cool, gonna come in, chill on the sofa, no big deal. And then Mitch was wired the whole time, and Shadow was like, I just want to snooze. And then we felt bad because, of course, Shadow can be super hyper as well. But obviously, every time now, the last few days, he's just been so chilled. And was like, oh my god, he's so well behaved and so calm. And I'm like, he was wired today. But I guess around other dogs, he's, you know, very chill and submissive, I guess. But yeah, so that was hilarious. So we have a couple toys that have seen better days, but it's all good. Letter was approved. I was, oh, that's nice. You were able to spin it in a way that was a little bit more palatable, probably for yourself, and ergo will be more palatable for the person receiving the letter as well. So that's nice. Good for. I feel like you did your due diligence. You know what I mean? By like softening the words. But yeah, so that was funny. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, no, so there was another toy. There was this little blue, like, kind of crossbone teething toy that Shadows had, like, when he was a puppy, but he wasn't super interested in it anyway. A lot of the times we, like, you know, would pick up a toy for him, he's interested for all of 2 seconds, and he sort of gets over it. And so it was this little blue teething toy, and it was, like, in the bottom of Shadow's toy box. But Mitch was, like, digging his head in there, like, looking for the things he wanted, which is great, because Shadow, he will want to play. Like, last night, he was whining. He didn't know what he wanted to do with himself. And we're like, we know you want to play. Go and get us a toy. And he's just completely like, no, I don't know what's going on. You bring him the toys you know he wants. He instantly is like, yeah, cool, let's play with them. And you're like, dude, you know where your toys are. If you want to play so bad, go get your toy and bring it to us. We don't have to go in digging it for you. It's like he just completely forgets. Whereas Mitch knows in the toy bag, searching for what he wanted, bringing over what he wanted to play with. I was like, you gotta do that, dude. Like, I'm glad you don't destroy your toys, but at least, like, Mitch will find the toy he wants. Whereas Shadow, like, forgets all his toys exist until you, like, show them to him. And he's like, oh yeah, I like this thing. Silly Gog. Hi, Soul. Good afternoon. How you doing? Everyone, our customers are receiving this letter. Isn't that? Ooh. Wow, it's going out to everyone? That's wild. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was just saying, Saul, that he met his friend Mitch on Sunday, and they got along really well, but Mitch is a toy destroyer, so we had a couple casualties after Sunday. But again, Shadow has so many toys that we said, you know, we can have a couple casualties. Some of them, though, like, to be fair, I was a bit like, oh man, poor Pumpkin. But he also has a skeleton that's literally the exact same toy, so I was like, it's fine. We still have skeleton. Pumpkin, R.I.P. But, you know, it's okay. Yeah, Yeah. But again, he has 2 boxes of toys, and again, our friends warned us. They were like, Mitch likes to destroy toys. Like, you know, be warned. And we were like, Shadow literally has 2 boxes of toys, and he only ever plays with like 2 of them. It's fine. So yeah, that was interesting. So yeah, this last one. So yeah, Pumpkin is gone. Well, he's still around, but he's a bit, his squeaker has been removed from his insides. Monkey's missing a hand. And then, yeah, this little blue teething toy that Shadow's had since he was a puppy that, like, he doesn't use, but it's just been in the bottom of this toy bucket. Mitch grabbed it, and he was, like, chewing on it, and we're like, yeah, haha, whatever, like, he can have that. Like, to be fair, I've not seen it in, like, probably a year. And then we looked, like, literally 10 seconds later, and this little crossbone was broken up into little chunks. It's, like, this bright blue chewy thing, and it's, like, chunks of just, like, blue. It looks like blue kibble. And, like, Liam and I are fascinated. We're like, how is this dog... Because, again, Shadow doesn't destroy his toys. He, like, chews on them a little bit, but he's very, very chill even when he's, like, roughhousing and things. And we're just like, damn, dog. Like, look at you, like, literally crunch this bone into pieces. Wow. But yeah, the squeakers... We have 3 dogs in the small, so we'll chew all the squeakers out of the toys and steal them. Yeah, as long as they don't swallow them, eh? Like, that's the main goal. The goal is to be like, please don't swallow these. But yeah, so it was really funny. But like I said, Shadow got his like low-key revenge because he took Mitch's bone. And again, Shadow was indifferent to Mitch eating his toys, and Mitch was indifferent to Shadow taking his chew. So we'll see. Oh no! That's funny. Oh dear. You're like, he is the lesser of the others. That's hilarious. But yeah, I think they were saying that Mitch has probably accidentally swallowed a couple of them. Oh, really? Is it a female dog? Is it in heat, or is it just like... Yeah. Super aggressive. Oh, that's annoying. Sounds like it needs a little bit more training. Oh no, he's a male. He's just a turd. That's so funny. He's a turd, and therefore he needs to wear a diaper to not have turds. Is it one of those where you probably would like poop in the house, and so it's just easier to have a diaper on him than like... That's interesting. Yeah, that's fair. I guess that makes sense if he's like aggressive and he needs to like sort of dominate stuff and things. This is me talking like I have any idea what I'm talking about. Did I do that right? Yes, I believe I did. Okay, cool. I was like, oh. Yeah. Thought she should tear them out and she'd look at us with the squeaker in her mouth. Oh, that's awesome. So if they want the squeaker, then you're like, we will use this to our advantage. That's interesting. Oh, no more. Good morning, Ray. Lurkin' eatin'. Love it, love it. Aww. Yeah, small dog syndrome is hilarious, but it can be very problematic. That's interesting that they, like, the squeaker is the thing. Because are any of your dogs, like, really ball focused? Because that's always the thing that also fascinates me and Liam when we're at the dog park. And, like, the owner will have the ball in their hand and the dog is watching them like a hawk. Like, throw the ball, throw the ball, throw the ball. They're, like, even barking at them. They're, like, getting real, like, oh my god, you know, that sort of thing. And it's wild. And we're just like, that's interesting. Because, again, like we said, Shadow doesn't really play... fetch. He's interested if you get his attention because he just wants a reason to run. We think his whole thing is he's secretly racing the ball. He already runs faster than the ball. Like, that's a thing. But I think that's his game that he plays, is we throw this ball with this big ball thrower thing. And he just runs almost like to try to beat the ball. You know what I mean? Like, that's more what it is. It's less so about playing fetch. Whereas I think a lot of other dogs, they're all about the ball because they go and get to the ball. They then have the ball in their mouth. They walk around with the ball. They're all excited about it. Whereas Shadow's like, this is just a means to get me to run. I don't actually care about the ball. You know what I mean? So it's interesting when we see other dogs that are like so focused on specific things. Like Shadow's just like so aloof. I think that's the like Saluki trait in him. I think we were reading up about Salukis and they're like pretty aloof in their way of being. So, yeah, it's interesting. Let me just check on this real quick. Okay. Cool. Okay. What day is that? Okay. I've not been checking these off, so I'm like, huh? There we go. Let's have more progress, please. Okay. Yeah, it was really good. Like I said, we had our friends over on Sunday. We did our dog walkie and then had our we had a roast dinner with Mitch the toy destroyer and Shadow just like whatever. But then on the Saturday, so the day before, we went out to Liam's aunt's place, aunt and uncle's place, because his uncle makes cider. And so they were in the bottling process. So they already got all the apples, done all the fermenting and things like that. And so they were bottling. And so they asked, because Liam's helped them out before, being like, oh, do you want to come and do this? So we figured we'd make a day of it. We'd go over there. And this was also a bit of like recon as well, because originally Shadow and I weren't going to go. But this is the house where the family Christmas do happens. And in August, when we had a family birthday do, Shadow got really bored and decided to start sneaking into the neighbors' yards, because their aunt and uncle's place, it's not fenced in. There's like shrubs that sort of like fence in their property line, but like it's not secured. You know what I mean? And so he got a little bit bored the last time we were out there and decided he was going to go on some adventures on his own. And it took a lot of coaxing to try to get him back in. And so we were like, okay, if we go and it's just like the two of us and the whole extended family isn't there, then if he decides he wants to like run out and go on adventures, we can then find the holes that he's escaping out of and like plug them with like old chairs or like wheelbarrows and stuff like that. But he was really good. He was actually amazingly good. We like had a bit of a run on in the yard and stuff like that. And then he just mostly hung out on the sofa. Like they have, like a conservatory, like a glassed in conservatory. So we just hung out in there and he just like slept on their sofa the whole time. I think the thing that happens with him, and maybe this was more what it was than him being bored, is that when there's like tons of people in the room, of course he likes to lounge out on a sofa, right? Homeboy is long, so he takes up like the whole sofa. If it's like a 2-seater sofa, he's stretching out on that bad boy and taking up all the space. So I think what happens is when we have these big family dues, all the butts are in all the seats, and so then he doesn't have a place he can like splay out in. And I think that's more what bothers him. So maybe the reason he was adventuring is he's just kind of like, I can't chill. There's nowhere to sit. I don't know what to do with myself. I'm gonna go run around instead. So we'll see. He was very well behaved. Either our poodles got out, they take off. Really? Yeah. See, that was the thing. Like, I had a dog growing up. We didn't have her for very long, but she was like 10 when we adopted her. And I think she had a lot of separation anxiety, like extreme separation anxiety. And so, yeah, if the front door was open or like someone opened, she would try to weasel out and she would take off. And I remember I was a similar age. I think we got her when she was like 10, 9 or 10, because we were the same age. Like, that was the thing I remembered. So I think I was like 9. And so she would sometimes end up escaping in the morning before we had to go to school. So then me and my brother would have to go to school, and of course I'd be freaking out. And then of course when my parents finally found her, my mom would then call the school so they could tell me like, by the way, Tasha, your dog's back at home, sort of thing. Yeah, it wasn't good. It was like a lot. Thankfully, he's not like that. Despite the fact that, you know, again, we always count our lucky stars. He's mostly greyhound. But despite that, he seems to have little to no prey drive. And they said that's one of the problems usually with greyhounds or lurchers and stuff, is because they have such a high prey drive. If there's like a squirrel or a bird or something, they'll chase after it. And that will be the focus, less so where you are and what's going on with you. So like Liam's coworker has a bunch of greyhounds, and they say that they have to try to chase after them because they, like, once they're off lead, they just go. And their recall isn't that great and all that kind of stuff. So thankfully, knock on all the wood, it never happens. But yeah, Shadow's not like that. So he's not attempting to escape. His baseline is always wants to know where we are. So as long as he knows where we are at any given point, he's usually good and will find his way back to us. The only other problem, obviously, is like with him running away in the neighbors' yards. We were then following him, and because we didn't want him bothering the neighbors. That was more the problem, not that he was going to get into trouble in sense of like that he would run away and we wouldn't be able to find him or whatever. It's more just like, we don't know these people, get out of their yard. That's more what it is. But yeah, because he could see us, he was kind of like, oh, I know where my parents are, I can continue perusing. And we're like, no, sir, get your ass back in this yard. You're not allowed over there. But I think, hopefully, he'll be all right. But it was funny because, again, like Liam and his uncle were bottling this cider, and his uncle always makes custom labels for the cider as well. And so at the end, sort of the last step after bottling it is labeling them. And so they're kind of like, oh yeah, that's like the last thing we have to do. And then Liam goes, oh, I know somebody who likes doing repetitive, like, precision-based tasks, right? So he's like, oh, Tasha, do you want to put the labels on? And I'm like, heck yeah, I do. You kidding me? So I just sat there with my little trusty glue stick, and I did, the square around it, and I made sure I lined it up on the bottles, and it was all nice and squared off and nice and smooth, and yeah, just living my best life. Living my best little, like, hyper-focused, attention to detail life. It was great. And then it was funny, because then they came out, and we were almost done. I think we finished the first batch. There was, like, all these bottles that were a certain label, because they had different batches that they were then going to bottle later. But yeah, I put all the labels on them, and then, so his uncle comes out, and they're like, oh my god, like, you're doing a really good job, you're almost done, this is amazing. And I'm like, yeah, man, check me out. Yeah, it was great, because he first showed me, he was like, yeah, this is how I normally do it, I put it on, and of course it was, like, smudging and whatever, and he's like, don't do it that way. And I'm like, no, it's all good. So I was, like, taking the glue stick and going, like, as close to the line as possible, making sure not to get too much so that it would, like, sploosh out when you stuck it back on the bottle, and all these things. It was great. I was in my element, and Liam knew that. They were like, give Tasha the weird OCD task, and I was like, yes! Yeah, it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Shadow slept on the sofa, hung out with Liam's aunt, and I was like, label sticking away. Yeah. My perfectionism was showing. My stickler for detail and lining things up and taking, again, Liam and I joke, like, I'm not the most efficient person, but if you want things done pristinely and you don't need it in a 48-hour time period, I'm your girl. If you need it done quickly and efficiently and nicely, that's not gonna work for me. But, like, if you give me enough time to just, like, hyper-focus and be in my element for, like, 4 to 6 hours, I'll do it. I'm good at Lego sorting, too. Exactly, that's another one. Ooh, I'm gonna sit here for, like, 3 hours and organize Lego by color. Sign me up. Yeah. I just like, yeah, it's, like, repetitive, mindless activities that still give you a sense of fulfillment. You know what I mean? So it's like, it doesn't take a lot of brain power to do this, but I'm accomplishing something and it's satisfying. Those are the best tasks. I think that's kind of how I feel a little bit. To be fair, unless I have to do a bunch of counting, that's why I think I like cross-stitching so much, because it's just, like, very repetitive. You might have to do a bit of counting and, like, whatever, but it's, like, a lot of just, you're doing a thing, and it's, like, timely, like, whatever, and then you look up and you're like, damn, like, look how accomplished I've been. Just doing these, like, little things. And I love that. And it's not like I just sit there in, like, dead silence and do these things. It's like I'll have, like, music on, I'll be having a conversation, like, I'll just be doing whatever, like, just in my own little world. I'll be like, see you in a couple hours. Love it. Yeah, things are decidedly more chill this week. Kat, I'm also really good at sorting Legos. Yeah, high five. That's because me and Kat have already established, Kat, that me and you are basically the same person, so it makes sense to me that you are also superior Lego sorter. I really love organizing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm like anything that just, I don't know, it's just like so aesthetic. I think that's why too, like when I do cross stitching, I like doing prep. So it's like, you know, I like taking my bobbins and like sorting out all of my like working thread and like all of the sort of like little preppy like things, and it's like, because just look how satisfying all those colors are together. It's just like, oh, that's awesome. And then like bobbinating, it's so funny, people hate bobbinating. I freaking love it. Again, it's like this mindless thing that just is so aesthetically satisfying when it's done. Though, in the parcel that my parents sent me, my grandma, I think because they're part of her, my grandma, my mom, and my aunt are all part of this quilt guild, and I think they do sort of like craft swaps and things, like sort of like a trash to treasure thing. So if you have stuff you're not using, you bring it to this meetup, and then you can sort of swap for other crafty bits and things like that. So my grandma picked up a bunch of plastic DMC bobbins for me, and then there's actually a bobbinator, so it's like a manual bobbinator that you attach the bobbin to, and it like makes you just like twist it, and then you can wind the bobbins. So I'm excited to try it out. I have this like cool little bobbinating tool, but if it doesn't make it as aesthetically satisfying as me just hand bobbinating, I'll probably just do that. So yeah, okay, emails are cleaned up now. I have nothing to do. Uh-oh. I'll depend on what part of the spectrum I'm on. With ADHD, if I can... Yeah. Some supplements that are really helping for that. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Right, yeah. So it depends if it's, like, the hyper-focus stage or the, like, literally cannot get up to do the thing. I respect that, definitely. That's cool, though, that you've, like, found something that works for you. You know what I mean? Because it's like with any sort of neurodiverse stuff, it can be a lot of trial and error to like figure out what the balance is to work for you to like live your best life and be your most authentic self. You know what I mean? Apart from the little place I'd always have to go to because they have prostitutes. Oh yeah. Aw. Ooh, no. That's so disheartening. I think it might have been my sister-in-law talking about her brother and how he was, or no, it might have been my brother-in-law, like, who got really into, like, knitting or really into something like that and, like, joined, I think, a few, I don't know if it was, like, Facebook groups or some, like, I think it was my sister-in-law's brother who joined a few, like, Facebook groups and stuff, and then, they got a little bit too mega-y, and so he had to leave. It was like, these are just, you know, the wrong old biddies, you know what I mean? Because it's interesting, because I was talking to my mom about this the other day, and she's noticed that, because there's a few sort of, like, younger generation people in this quilt guild, or it's, like, the more sort of progressive ones are being a bit more outspoken, so they're making it very, very clear, like, if you are gonna have those opinions, you either need to get out or keep your mouth shut. You know what I mean? Like, we will absolutely segregate you if you're gonna have harmful bullshit happen. That's what it was. Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, my mom said it's been awesome because the people in her group, there's a lot more that are much more outspoken, and much more, you know, have a much more balanced take on humanity and a less prejudiced take on humanity and a much more loving and accepting part. And they make that known, and then that obviously, one, attracts more accepting and open people. Also, you know, silences or ousts the people that, you know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I just want the... Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, definitely. You're like, the class divide and your prejudice is showing. Absolutely. And then that becomes another thing. You've been called Antifa. You should wear that as a badge of honor. You were like, yes, I am all of Antifa. That's so silly. You're like, Alabama be nuts. Did I do this right? Did I not leave a gap? Ooh, balls. Okay, I think we need to frog. Yeah, we do. This stitch is not supposed to be there. Neither is that stitch, actually. Wait. No. This stitch, yeah, that stitch isn't supposed to be there. And that stitch isn't supposed to be there. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I feel that. I was gonna say, because like most of my extended family, they're from Alberta, which we joke is like the south of in Canada. They're like the Texas of Canada. So a lot of my extended family have questionable thoughts and opinions on things, and you know, there's a reason that, you know, I have little to no relationship with them. You know, like it's, yeah. Especially too, like, obviously, like, there's a certain, I know there's, like, conflicting things when, like, you know, you have people that you care about that also have weird beliefs. Like, my friend is not, like, super close with her dad, but, like, she wants to have a relationship with him, and they have that sort of, oh no, anyway. They have that sort of cordial relationship, but there's, like, certain things that you do not talk about with them in order to keep that, you know, respectable. Keep that conversation respectable, I guess, is what it is. And yeah, so there's certain things that are like, no. Yeah, keeping it PC, or keeping it, you know, keeping the peace among people in that respect. But yeah, for me, it's like, if I don't have to converse with you, then I'm not going to. Yeah. Ooh. Because I'm married somebody who's very far right. That's so frustrating. And that's the thing that really sucks too, when you can like see kids being like corrupted in real time. And that's not even like for far right bullshit. That's like just in general. Like, you see kids adopt the prejudice and the hate and bullshit from their parents because they get raised in that same, like, in that environment. And then it's really, what's awesome is obviously when kids then grow up, or even, you know, as adults, and there's like, when you can accept or have an ability to change, you know what I mean? Because, like, I'm sure, like, there's definitely things when I was younger, like, I'm not saying I was like that, never, ever, ever, but, you know, when you, like, say things from a less informed place, and then as you get older, or as you know, become more informed, you're like, wait, that was fucked up, that I thought that way, that I said this thing, whatever. I'm recognizing that that was wrong, and I'm committed to being better and doing differently. You know what I mean? And it's really awesome when people can do that. I respect too that in certain situations that can be incredibly difficult as well. Especially if, like, you're relying on, you know, differently worldviewed people that, you know, if you have parents that way and you live under their roof, you know, you need to sort of tread lightly in that respect. But yeah, if you can sort of, if you had previously drunk the Kool-Aid and you're able to purge that from your system, like, that's awesome, and that should be celebrated almost. You know what I mean? Like, you should be able to celebrate the fact that you were able to shed the bullshit and become more, I guess, enlightened in a way. Grew up in Republican because of my parents. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, right? You sort of just like, because especially too, like, depending on your family situation, if you're quite a tight-knit family and you don't have a lot of like outside friends or outside influences, or you grow up in a town where everybody sort of thinks the same way, you can have a really narrow-minded worldview, or it's like for you, that is just the way the world is. You know what I mean? Like, that is the way your brain is, because you're like, I'm surrounded by this thing. That's clearly the way the world is, because everyone around me thinks the same way. And then you get out into the world and you go, wait a second, holy. And then, of course, one of two things happens. You go, well, no, everyone else is wrong. What I've grown up in my entire life is right. Or you go, ooh, interesting. Maybe the way I was raised wasn't actually the most accurate depiction of the world. And you make that change, right? You come at this crossroads, and there's one of two ways you can go. You can go towards the path of, you know, having a deeper understanding of that and going and unpacking, you know, the prejudices within yourself and choosing to no longer walk that path, or you can double down on them. And, you know, I'm sure you've experienced people both sides of that, right? So entrenched. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? But it's like, as you know, people, well, I would like to think that, you know, people can be redeemed. You know what I mean? And then also, but you have to obviously accept those parts of yourself and go, okay, that's a part that I have changed. You know what I mean? Because it can be really difficult, or I think there can be like this sort of double-edged sword where, I don't know if it's like a double-edged sword in terms of like maybe social media situations where like, unless you kind of go in and curate and delete all the stuff you posted when you were like 15 years old and stuff, there's probably some like really dumb stuff on there. And so I've noticed that what happens with like some celebrities is that they are perceived to be a certain way, and then somebody digs up some shit from their past, and then they're like, then they paint them with their past brush instead of their future brush. To be fair though, sometimes celebrities don't help themselves and they sort of like double down on things, as opposed to going like, I was speaking from a completely uninformed place. Here's the steps that I've taken over the years to not be from, like, to not speak from that same place anymore. And you can tell that I am different. Obviously sometimes that's just lip service and they're just being called out on shit that they still believe in, but they're just not talking about as openly as they maybe did when they were a teenager. But I think sometimes a lot of people have changed and are speaking from more informed places, and sometimes your past bullshit can come up, and you have to be prepared to eloquently defend the fact that you are a different person now, if you in fact are. That's racist. Like, it's just facts. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. There was actually this really interesting, like, think piece article that I found on Twitter, which is a whole other, like, hellscape in and of itself. But it was a really interesting thing that sort of talked about, like, the boomer generation and the concept of, like, the boomer generation never had to survive, like, a world war. They were sort of born and brought up in a time of, like, economic prosperity and, like, the intensity of which their parents had to deal with were exponentially more worse off than they were. But yet, for whatever reason, that generation seems to have gotten it in its head that, like, somebody or something is out to get what they, like, out to get their stuff. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I've worked so hard for this thing, or it's not even like they've had to work very hard for it, but there's this innate fear that something or someone, whether it's the left, whether it's like immigrants or something like that, is gonna take that away from them. And they then harden themselves and double down on this thing because it's like run by fear. And it's like, okay, but the opposite of that is like connection and things like that. I don't know. It was really interesting. It was an interesting think piece. I will actually, if I find that, not to, you know, not that we get political on here often. It's just, yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting think piece. Let me find it. this over here. No, must be here. I didn't realize I had actually like liked and retweeted stuff so often to warrant like actually having to do a bit of a rundown through it. Okay, it's over here. Oh no, the tweet's been deleted. Uh-oh. You know where it is. You know where the actual think piece is. I've saved it. I've saved it. Let me find... Here it is. I sent it to my mother. So unless the actual article itself has been deleted too, that would be wild. It makes sense that like this shit was dinged from Twitter, because again, Twitter's a hellscape currently. This one. Copy. But yeah, again, if you're interested in a political think piece, feel free. If not, you know, let's hang out and craft. But both of the options are there. Okay, so I did need to frog that section, which then resulted in some frayage. So we need to start a new line of thread, which is fine. It happens. Right? You're like, I enjoy the occasional political think piece. I appreciate that. I'm the same way. I'm like, it's not often, every once in a while. Because I think a lot of this stuff can sometimes be a lot of fluff, or it's a lot of, like, tell me something I don't know. But that one provided an interesting perspective that I was like, okay, I feel like I've learned something new today. Whereas a lot of times it's just like, same shit, different headline, you know? Let's see, what time, where are we at? Okie dokie. It's good, because once this particular thread color is a large chunk of this kind of last quarter, there's sort of like, I would say, two main colors that take up the rest of this sort of quadrant. Yeah. And so... I'm hoping that that will then make us feel more accomplished in our pursuit for more than one page. Yeah, no, that is accurate. My uncle being one of them. But yeah, I think the other thing, because again, it's, I don't know, it's interesting. It's a lot of, like, food for thought, especially to, like I said, the sort of complicated relationship between family and people. And this isn't even, like, this is not even going beyond, it could be going beyond, like, political belief structures and things like that. But when you have like a moral obligation or like a blood related, like, yeah, I guess like an obligation for connection due to people being blood related to you. Whereas it's like they may not have had a personal slight against you personally, but it's like you just don't gel. It's like that thing where like if you weren't blood related to somebody, you wouldn't be their friend. You know what I mean? And so then, yeah, when you have these like conflicting sort of either viewpoints or ways of existing in the world, or, you know, just the way that people live their life, and that's sort of like combative against the way that you sort of live your life, it can be really complicated to navigate. Again, like sometimes it does get to a point where there's sort of like, not the extreme case, but there are in some instances where people are, despite being blood relative, you know, need to be cut off from your life. And that's one way to go about doing it. But then there's also this sort of like weird middle ground where like nobody's done something so offensive to me that it's warranted me cutting them out of my life. But also, this isn't a relationship that I feel good being a part of. You know what I mean? And so then that becomes complicated to navigate. But yeah, absolutely. You can't pick your relatives, but you can pick your family. 100% agree with that. I did a lot of that. Yeah, exactly, right? And I think that's the other thing too, right? Like it can be not something as simple as, but like some of that is like, you know, for no fault of someone's own, or for whatever, like for all the shenanigans or whatever, it's like, for me personally, for, again, my mental health, I cannot spend too much time with certain people. Or I have to be with other people when spending time with those individuals to ensure that my mental health doesn't tank as a result of that. Or, you know, you're spending time with a person. Again, it's about like energy vampires. I think that's the other thing too. So it's people, you know, there's certain people that you spend time with and your like energy reserves get refilled. And then there's people who just take the mental, physical, emotional energy from you. And so when you know you're hanging out with energy vampires, you need to make sure that you either have energy suppliers in that circle, or that you know you'll have access to those people after you've spent time with the energy vampires. You know what I mean? But yeah. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's really taking stock and figuring out, okay, who are the people who give you energy and who are the people who suck the life out of you, and then making sure that you have access to the energy providers in those times. Because again, that's how like burnout happens. That's how stress happens. Like when you have to hang out with energy vampires, there's obviously things you can do to protect yourself outside of spending time with other people who can refuel you. But yeah, energy vampires are tough. Especially if you have any sort of like empathetic, introverted bone in your body. Sometimes that can make it so much more augmented. I think anybody, regardless of your sort of like mental state, can, I guess, be a victim of energy vampirism. But I think people who are incredibly empathetic, maybe people that are incredibly introverted as well, I think struggle with that a lot as well. So it's difficult. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you got one of those, eh? Do you make it fun for yourself and come up with like a weird reason every time she asks? Like, why don't you go to church? You can be like, that's when I'm sacrificing a goat to Satan, you know? Or is it like you can't make those remarks, you know what I mean? I love that. Why don't you do this? Because this. Like, why aren't you going to church on Sundays? Because that's the day that I sacrifice lambs to the Dark Lord. I don't know. You're like, I'm getting a haircut that day. I'm sorry, I can't. Hair growth doesn't stop for Jesus. You know, if you have the ability to do that and it doesn't, like, make things worse, you know? Because sometimes you can say something and it, like, makes light of a situation or it makes your life easier. But other times it can then, like, set people off and it makes your life actually a living hell to say things like that. So if it's easier, yeah. That's nice of her, I guess. That's interesting. Right now, it's like my family's sort of not going through like a reckoning or anything, but my great aunt has dementia and her health is sort of like dwindling quite quickly. And so, because she never married or had any kids, my mom and my aunt have sort of become her primary caregivers. And so, yeah, so they've been going through this process of sort of like pre-planning and prepaying for like her funeral and things like that, which the funeral industry is like comparable to the wedding industry in terms of the upselling and the price gouging. Like, it's absolutely insane. Like, the funeral industrial complex is a real thing, and it's actually pretty malicious when you think about the fact that they're like price gouging on grieving families, but that's a whole other conversation. Let me save that soapbox for another day. But it's been really interesting because my great grandfather that I never met, he was a Ukrainian Orthodox pastor. So my grandpa and my great aunt were heavily indoctrinated into the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. And as my grandpa has gotten older, he has very much rejected that. I think he's come out of as an atheist. Like, he's very, almost like vehemently opposed to the church. Except for now that they're thinking about, you know, the sort of way that they want to honor my aunt's life when she eventually passes away. And him and my grandma and, like, my aunt are very, like, yeah, like, are almost very, and I don't know, we were saying, I don't know if it's, like, you know, Catholic guilt, like, I know that that's a thing, you know, where you kind of reject that church and then later on in your life, I don't know if you start then fearing for yourself in the afterlife, so then you need to sort of, like, get back into God's good graces or whatever, I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, now they want to do, like, the whole funeral pomp and circumstance within that Orthodox, like, I don't know, like, framework, I guess is what it is. Like, the whole funeral procession within that framework. And so, yeah, and so it's been very interesting and a little bit, I think, confusing and stressful for my mom who's going through all of this because it's sort of like, you know, she was sort of brought up with one viewpoint and now the viewpoint is kind of shifting. But yeah, it's interesting. That's really funny. Because the other thing too, right, is not only is now like the whole thing going on with my aunt very sort of complicated because of her, you know, desires to be buried in this specific church that all of these Orthodox preachers were a part of and all these different things. But of course, again, because of the funeral industrial complex, that's then like up the price for a lot of stuff. And so my mom was saying to me yesterday, it's a bit morbid, but she said, you know, basically like she has dementia. And so if my mom wasn't kind of low-key convinced that my great aunt might come and haunt the shit out of her if she didn't honor her like funeral wishes, they could save a hell of a lot of money by just like cremating her and putting her in the local cemetery. You know what I mean? But because she was like, no, if we don't do what she wants, even if she doesn't remember that this is what she wants, she might come back fit as a fiddle and haunt the shit out of me. So I need to respect that. A mushroom suit burial. I don't know if I know what that is. like, again, not intentional, but that's one of the things that I always find really interesting. I guess it's interesting because, again, I, as a child, pre-generalized anxiety disorder diagnosis, was absolutely terrified of death and dying and all that kind of stuff. And then as I've gotten older, again, like, I think cemeteries are some of the most peaceful, beautiful places to walk around in and all that kind of stuff. Oh, that's really cool. And then, yeah, I've just had this, like, interesting, again, too, because, you know, I think people don't talk enough about it, and I think it's important for your loved ones to know what your posthumous wishes are, yeah, to have that, and so to not be afraid of having those conversations and figuring out, like, what do you want to do if you pass, right? Because I think a lot of people sort of get into the headspace, especially if they're, like, of sound body and mind, like, you know, I don't have to worry about that yet. I don't need to have a will. I don't have to do all that kind of stuff. I don't have to worry about that. I'm, like, fit as a fiddle. Everything is great, right? But obviously, like, shit happens. And so it's always helpful as a person to be, you know, to prepare as much as possible so that your loved ones aren't, like, scrambling in the midst of their grief. You know what I mean? So I always ask people that. It's interesting to know. Oh! So Isosha, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome in, guys. Sorry, we're in an interesting mood today. We are talking about anything and everything right now. My name's Tash. We are currently in the throes of cross-stitching Howl's Moving Castle. It's the last week of Studio Ghibli month here on the channel. We have been needle felting the GCU, the Ghibli Cinematic Universe, and yeah, we're currently working on Howl's Moving Castle. This is just the first page of, like, 16, and so my goal for the end of the week is to finish this page and get onto the second page. That is the goal. Whether or not we get there, we will find out. Asosha and the Bobbin crew are raiding you. The Needle Army. Oh, honestly. So we have someone else who is partial to the stabby crafts, and I really appreciate you being here. What were you working on? How was your stream? Were you also cross-stitching? If you have any links to show me what you were up to, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Again, thank you so much for being here. Hello, hello, hello. Right? It's a needle army. We are also partial to the stabby crafts over here on this channel. So anyone else who loves to wield a needle for the sake of crafting purposes is welcome over here. But yeah, we are just, yeah, talking about all the things. Sherv Merch, thank you so much for the follow. Super glad to have you here. We are Stabby Stabby. Ooh, working on a quilt today. That's also very cool. I am from a family of quilters. I myself do not quilt, but my grandma, my mom, and my aunt do. Very cool. What's sort of the vibe? Are you doing, like, a full queen size quilt? Are you doing just, like, a little lap quilt? Is it a baby quilt? What's the colors? What's the pattern? What's going on? I love it. My mom actually just recently sent me a care package with a baby quilt for my partner's cousin's new baby, and this, like, Alice in Wonderland themed craft quilt kit that we worked on for a little bit. Oh, I wield needles. Yeah, you wield the needles. All the needle wielders in the house. That's incredible. Oh, someone let out a big stretch over there. You literally cannot see. First of all, you probably can't even really see him from here, but let's see. All you can see. Tash wields tea mostly. Yeah, mostly. You can just see the feet. There you go. The feet's just dangling off the futon. There is the torso of almost 2-year-old Lurcher Shadow, mascot of the channel, and then Phantasma, unofficial mascot of the stream channel. You love the Ghibli. Ooh, we love the Ghibli too. Let me show you what we've made so far in our needle felting creation. So, Howl's Moving Castle, cross-stitch extravaganza. We have Calcifer, the Fire Demon, may all your bacon burn. We have Totoro, and my favorite Totoro, which is awkward Totoro waiting for the bus before, I think it's Satsuki, gives him the umbrella for the first time. And then we are in the process of finishing Gigi from Kiki's Delivery Service. I'm not 100% happy with his eyes yet. So we still have, I have a bit of finishing up to do, but this is where we're at with him. And then on Thursday, as our last needle felted GCU character, we will be working on No Face from Spirited Away, which I think hopefully will only be a 1-day stream, because it's like once we get his mask, it's just like a black ghosty ambiance, you know what I mean? Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. I guess so, Saul. Yeah, you always have to pop off before the final product. Yeah, Totoro's done. Again, Gigi I'd say is like 95% finished. And then yeah, we're working on this. And then on Tuesday, so this is the last week of actual like Ghibli creations. And then on the Tuesday, we're going to be doing our official ranking of all 23 Studio Ghibli movies. Oh, I really appreciate that. Oh, I love it. I love my lurkers. I love when we can craft or people are like working while we hang out. I always appreciate that. But yeah, I like it. I like it a proper stream. Oh yeah, sorry. I did read. What were you working on? You were look like you were paper piecing. Paper piece quilt. Ooh, an upholstered window seat. That sounds incredible. Paper piecing is a little fiddly though, isn't it? Yeah. So you got your work cut out for you. Literally. Cutting out all the little paper pieces. That's awesome. Okay. But yeah. That's what is up. But yes, so on a week from today, we will be doing our official ranking. I think I've talked pretty openly, and I think if you guys could guess, based on the amount of talking I've done about the GCU, you probably know what my favorite film is. The only S tier one, in my opinion. And then, yeah, everyone else, it's like, there's one that is absolutely trash. There's some that are meh. And then everything else is pretty awesome. And then you have, like, the penultimate epicness of Ghibli. So, nearly finished the paper ripping out stage. Ooh, wow. Oh, that'll be really nice, though. It'll be satisfying when all that's cleared up. I remember one time when I was visiting my grandma and she was trying to pawn off making hexies, because she really wanted this quilt that was a bunch of tiny little hexies, and was like, oh, you can do hexies. And I was like, Grandma, no. She wanted me to do them in the car. And I'm like, this seems too complicated for that. She's like, it's real simple. I'm like, if it's so simple, why don't you do it? Because it's fiddly. So I don't think she would. But yeah, I never ended up doing hexies. But again, that seems, again, another little fiddly thing. My mom actually went on the quilt guild that she's a part of. They had like a little quilting retreat this weekend. So they went and worked on some stuff. And she did this really cool, she's had this quilt pattern. It's called like a labyrinth one, and it looks really trippy, like a bunch of, yeah, like just like very labyrinthian in design. And she's made like 3 quilts with that same pattern. It's really done her quite well. Okay, perfect. So we're now going like basically up the curve of this dome in this color. So hopefully. Going over here, doing the thing. But yeah, of course, Asosha, if you need to raid and run, I totally appreciate that. Hydrate yourself, get yourself a snack, do whatever you gotta do. So the quilt sitting around that you need to finish. Oh, that's amazing. That reminds me of when I was a child. Like when I was in primary school, I took a sewing class. I had like sewing classes that I did with my friend, but I hated the teacher. I thought she was really mean, so I quit. But we were doing like a log cabin quilt. That was sort of like the first sort of basic quilt that we were being taught how to make. And yeah, I ended up quitting, but not before I finished all the individual squares. And then I think it was like years later, my mom was finally like, you're like 80% finished this quilt. Let's sit down and finish this thing. So we finally did. And then, yeah, it ended up, I used it for years. I actually still have it. My mom gave it to me a couple years ago. It's like quite frayed at the edges and things, so it's not like in snuggle circulation anymore, but it was quite, yeah, I'm proud of it. Good for now. Yeah, no problem. Again, love a lurk. Love a lurk. My first quote, something. Oh yeah. Hey man, if all else fails, you can just seam rip for days. It's like, you know how you have to frog a cross stitch? Get yourself a little seam ripper, and if you mess up, you just gotta rip out the seams and try again. Cool, started in March. We were working. Right, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's nice to have like a sort of end goal to sort of work towards. Is it a present for anyone in particular, or is it just sort of for yourself that you want to like get done so you can, you know what I mean? So you can enjoy it. This is a puffy quilt. I blame TikTok. Little seam ripper, right? Yeah, exactly. Hey man, the goal is not to have to seam rip to your heart's content, but if you have to, man. I don't know if I know anything about puff quilts. Is it just that they're like really heavily stuffed, or is this a specific technique? It's for you in your room. Oh, that's really nice. That's the thing, it's always nice to make things for yourself, especially if you make a lot of things for other people. And then you're like, treat yourself to a little project just for you. My mom was really cute, actually. She was telling me the other day, or yeah, because we talk every 2 weeks, so I was chatting with her yesterday. And again, she mostly makes quilts. My entire life I've known her as like making quilts and stuff, and she'd like help me make the occasional Halloween costume and things. But I didn't find out until recently that her initial love of sewing is because when she was a kid, she used to always make herself clothes. She loved making clothes for herself. And her grandparents lived the next province over, and so she would like spend the summers there, and she would always make a new outfit to like take the bus over to go visit them and things. And I was like, that's really cute, Mom. I never knew that. And so I guess the other day she was like, I don't know, scrolling through something, and she saw this jacket that she really liked, but it was like just this like unlined jacket, really nice color, nice design, but it was like $200. And she was like, it's an unlined cardigan jacket thing. I can probably make that myself. So she went and found herself a pattern and went to this like sort of like a Marshalls or Winners, but it's all just like dead stock fabric, and found herself some really cool fabric that matches this like jacket that, or this shirt that she has. And she was so happy. She was telling me how excited she is about like getting to make this article of clothing for herself. I'm like, damn, you go, Mom. Like, good for you. Get excited about it. It's a specific technique of puff. Oh, okay. Interesting. And it's a snitch, so I feel weird about it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's fair. So you sort of have, like, ambivalent feelings towards it. Yeah. That's fair. I respect that, where you're kind of like, That was sort of, like, with me, and it wasn't even, like, it was anything related to it. So I started listening to the audiobook Rebecca when, I forget why, I think it was, like, last year, and it was, like, sort of, like, creepy horror adjacent books, and so Rebecca was one of those that were recommended. But while I was listening to it is around the time that the movie adaptation came out with Armie Hammer, and then all the stuff with Armie Hammer came out, and then that just put a sour taste in my mouth, and I was like, I can't finish this book because now it's just gonna remind me of Armie Hammer and how much of a creepy boy he is. So I was like, can't do it. So I can understand that. Yeah. Definitely. You had to read it for school. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, we never did. We just had to do all of the Shakespearean ones. That, and we read this like terrible like World War II book. I think it was actually called The Wars, or like something like that. And I just remember there being like a very graphic scene in it, and we were all like, why are we reading this? again, I finally started listening to the audiobook version of Howl's Moving Castle, because Howl's Moving Castle, the Ghibli version, is based off of a book by Diane Wynne Jones, who's a British author. So I finally ended up downloading, because it got really good reviews on Audible with the narrator as well. And so I've been really enjoying it, because I've been told that the book it's not as much of a love story, like they've sort of painted it in the movie version of Howl's Moving Castle, but it's still really, really enjoyable. And yeah, even though there's a lot of like extra bits, or there's parallels and things are not like 100% like the movie, which I love so much, I'm still really, really enjoying the audiobook. And the narrator is really good, because she does like a lot of voices and things, and it's just like really animated, which is awesome, because I've told you guys this before, how audiobooks, I find, like, if the narrator is garbage, the book can be incredible, but then you end up hating the book because the narrator is trash. The Things They Carried was the war book we read. My grandpa was reading it when he died and never finished it. Oh, wow. Aw. Yeah, I don't think I've heard of that one. I can't remember the one that we read. That's kind of cool, though, that you gave it to him, so that, you know, he could have it with him. Doggo's on the move. Okay, let's come up. My goal is to, 1, finish all of this color on this page. Or at least this section, because there's a few little sporadic bits, and I would want to get further along before I did those. But yes, finish this section is the goal. Finish the section, maybe... No, it's not going to work that way. There's another color that I would like to finish as well, but if we can't get to it, that's fine. The goal is at least to finish this curve. And we have, what? An hour and a bit? So I think that's doable. We like achievable goals. We do small goals over here. Except for follower goals, which I guess now is considered small, but I never in my wildest dreams thought it was even possible. So every once in a while we have potentially lofty goals. But for crafting purposes, I usually lowball the goal of the stream. So I'm not disappointed if we don't get to it. We try to do the achievable. Like, let's just finish this section. I really do need to craft a clever lurk message. I'm not, you know. There's still little things. Yeah, it is! Yeah, it's a needle minder. I have this one, and then on my little... This is like a biscuit tin I use as like my little trash with all my little like floss threads and things, and then all of my other needle minders live on here. So last year I ended up getting that fox one with a bunch of these Disney princess ones. So I have a Cinderella one, Snow White, Anna and Elsa, Aurora, and Belle. So I got those guys, and then the first needle minder I ever got was this one, because I got it in Canada before I moved. So it's a little Canada one, but it's like it's like also a cross stitch, so all these little cross stitched Canadian motifs. And then I got this one for, I think it might have been my birthday or for Christmas. My brother-in-law got it for me, and it's tea powered, which is incredibly accurate. But yes, love me a needle minder almost as much as I love pins. That's another thing that I'm also obsessed with, is pins and buttons. So I have quite a few of them, actually. I have like an incredible button stash. And some of them, actually, I've been thinking about turning them into needle minders because I've seen and heard people do it. And I have one specifically, some like cute ghosty ones that I think would make excellent needle minders. But I've not come that far on that journey quite yet. But yeah, there's so many like cute ones out there. I was just quickly Googling them the other day. Actually. So I haven't worked on this in a million years, but the Witchy Stitcher, who I have the cryptid saw from, She collaborated with somebody. I don't know specifically who it was, but they created a couple needle minders, and they're sort of like spooky baked good needle minders that are like 3-dimensional, and one of them is like a pumpkin pie, but it has like a jack-o'-lantern face carved in it, and the other one is like a little cake that has little glow-in-the-dark spooky ghosts coming out of it. And I'm like, is that not the cutest freaking thing in the world? And it kind of reminds me of my like haunted tea emotes as well. Very cool. So yeah, speaking of cute, wonderful emotes, I don't even know if they're available yet or if they're just available for pre-order, but they're adorable. Okay. Actually, next we'll zoom this in, make it easier for me. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. Yeah, I'm quite enjoying this chill jazz. Pretzel Rocks has been impressing me lately. Though, apparently though, because of course they have like a streaming one, and then they have like a YouTube safe. So if you toggle the YouTube safe options, there's like 2 songs in this playlist that are YouTube safe. So I'm like, well, since I have such a neglected YouTube channel that has a backlog of like 9 months of videos that I'll probably never end up on there, I guess it's not the end of the world if eventually this ends up on here and it gets demonetized, because to be fair, I don't have enough followers to get monetization on those videos yet, so I'm not that concerned. But I just thought that was interesting that there's like stream safe songs and then there's YouTube safe songs on Pretzel Rocks, and they're not always the same, which is interesting. Oh, speaking of quilts, I need to put mine on my lap. I even have my leg warmers on, because my knees and ankles get really cold in the evening if I don't have like fuzzy clothes on. So we need to get the quilt out. This is one of the ones, I think my aunt made this for me a long time ago. You can sort of see the design of it. But yeah, we have tons of quilts in the house because, like I said, I'm part of a family of quilters, and so they've made many a quilt for us. 90% of them end up becoming like shadows, or we all share them. But yeah, got tons of quilts. Love a good quilt. Especially when they put like the minky fabric on the back. It's like this fuzzy fabric on the back of the quilt, and it just makes it extra cozy. This one doesn't have that. It just has, it's a bit soft, but it's not like the same. It does the job though. It does the trick for keeping my feet warm. My legs and feet warm. Actually, you know what I also need to do? I need to move these. Oh. I've been storing like boxes under here because I need one to send presents to my brother in Canada once his Christmas presents arrive, and I need to ship them over there. And it's always really difficult to find like a good size box, like a shoe box or something that's like sturdy quality. So I have two down there. But they were on top of my floss boxes that I also use as a pseudo footrest. Because if I want to have like proper ergonomic support at the desk, not have my feet dangling off the chair, I need to put my feet on something. So I use my floss boxes. Use my fabric, my bobbin stash. And so two of those boxes is the right height. We use what we have. We use what we got. We do what we need to do. What I want to do, but I keep forgetting. I want to half stitch that and then half stitch up here. Just because if we do all the stitches around it and then we're just kind of like filling it in, I kind of like that. It just feels like we're like coloring in with thread. Tea is absolutely cold now. That's alright. Still tasty. Sure, this guy's ordered hoodies in the back. Ooh, that's nice. Yeah, is it quite cold then? Every once in a while, Liam's office has like, I guess because they have like clients and things. So for corporate, they'll have like corporate swag. And so every once in a while, like the HR lady, they'll have like an overstock and they'll give things to Liam. So at one point, I think it was like, I had like a water bottle with the company logo on it and then like a shirt with the company logo on it. I think the same thing happened to him too. He had like a shirt, a water bottle, and then like something else. And it's like, you're walking around like a corporate like billboard for a company. But cold swag is always preferable. Cold for stuff. Fair enough. Also, it's cold for England as well. Because I say this, what is it? We went out, Shadow and I, for the morning, and I asked the Alexa like what the weather is like or whatever, and she was saying it was like 3 degrees, and I'm like, damn, like that's cold. But then it's like, I remember I grew up in Canada where like it would be like minus 20, you know what I mean? Like it was so bizarre to me because my friends posted photos of their kids sledding and like, you know, out in the snow with the sleds, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's like mid-November. There's a butt ton of snow in Canada right now. Like both where I grew up and both where my parents currently live. But like here, not even a whisper. You know what I mean? There's like maybe frost on the ground in the morning, but like that's not even been the case yet. And it's like, yeah, my complete like worldview of like when it's winter is completely shifted. Or what it means to be winter. You know what I mean? Yeah, -2 the other day. Exactly. Do a lot of trade shows. Oh yeah, a lot of swag. Definitely. Yeah, man, if it's good swag, like free corporate swag is awesome. I'm gonna switch colors so I can keep track of the half stitches. There we go. Okay, so we have half stitched those, Do you have 2 sets of tires, Kat, for your vehicles? Do you have to put winter tires on? Or I was gonna say, you hardly get snow, so that's probably not something you have to do. Because that was the funniest thing when I was trying to explain that to people here, that like we had winter tires that we had to strategically like make sure we go and swapped our tires. And then especially too, now that there's always like seems to be a freak snowstorm in like April or May, there's that fine balance of like, okay, do I switch back to my summer tires or do I hold off until I know there's no more? Because obviously if you're using snow tires, like when there's no snow on the ground, it like wears away the treads on it and then it can make them less effective later on. So it's always that fine balance of like, do I switch to the summer tires or do I switch to the winter tires? Right, yeah, that's fair. So it's not a concern. 1, 2, 3, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, yeah, okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 here. Okay. Ooh, I don't know if you guys heard that neck crack. My apologies. I have like a weird like twinge in my jaw area, like around here. So sometimes I find like if my neck is really stiff, like it gets all connected there. So I'm like, if I stretch this out, maybe that will feel better. Weird. Mm-hmm. Okay, there we are. Now we just get to fill this in. Yeah. Oh, it's annoying. I'm like, why can't... I was like, where else do other people carry their stress? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know where else people's stress sits in their body. But I would like to switch it. I don't want mine to be in my shoulders. I'm like, can I move where my stress... like, where my tension builds? Can my tension build, like, I don't know, in my leg? I don't know if that would be better or worse. I'm not sure. If I had to pick a spot in the body where I would want the tension to go rather than in my neck and shoulders, I guess maybe people's, like, lower backs and stuff? Is there, like, other parts of their back where their stress, like, manifests? I'm not sure. Yeah, okay, yeah, so lower back that's my other guess, definitely. I wonder if people hold them in their legs. I know my mom always had, like, a lot of muscle tension in, like, her hips, but I think she also sits cross-legged a lot, so I don't know if that was part of it, or if she genuinely, like, holds the tension in her hips. I don't know if that's possible, though. If anyone else holds their tension in another part of their body, I would be interested to know where that is. Aside from, like, from here up, you know what I mean? Like, do people get tension in their feet? Can you imagine, like, your foot cramping up because of stress? That would be interesting. That would actually be really difficult, though. Do you imagine you're stressed and then you, like, can't move, like, it's difficult to walk? He sits really weird, yeah. I, too, also sit very weird, mostly. I've been trying really hard to, like, have better posture, but I know there was like a trial or something where, or I've seen like there was like a Kickstarter to create a chair specifically designed for people who sit cross-legged. And I was like, that would work for me. Because 9 times out of 10, I am sitting cross-legged. But it's very difficult to find chairs that work like that. Crisscross applesauce on a cube, that's so funny. Yeah, Liam like he has like a gaming chair as his computer desk chair, and so he's like leaning back in that with his like feet on his desk, like totally just like haphazardly. I guess laying back though and chillaxing is better than like, you know, hunched over crafting gremlin, so it's the lesser of two evils maybe. Sit on one of your hips. Yeah. You sort of like lean off to the side a little bit. That's interesting. Is that just because it's the most, like, is it more painful to sort of evenly distribute that, or is that just a comfort thing? Interesting. I know, like, obviously when you sit cross-legged a lot, you obviously have one side sort of taking more weight than the other, so they recommend, especially like when you do yoga, to sort of like swap which leg you cross over and stuff. But yeah, that's interesting that you like have a preference for a certain like hip, you know what I mean? Right, yeah. Yeah, I noticed that when I drive too, where it's like I have one leg tucked maybe a bit closer to me, while the other leg is like splayed out on the pedals and stuff, which probably isn't like the best form. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I should probably make more of a concerted effort to do that. See, maybe just filling this in was a realistic goal. 45 minutes. Fill this in. And then maybe fill in some of the little sections around here, maybe. Let's see. One step at a time. I do think, though, I need to, 1, finish my tea, and 2, reach into the pumpkin candy stash and pull out a little snack. I had actually, because while I was waiting for the garage door people to sort things out, I was like, well, I might as well have my like stream snack now. So I have already pre-snacked, but I think I need a little bit more. So I'm sorry to deprive you all of the munches and crunches of my granola bar consumption during stream, because I've already done that today. Or I'm just saving your ear holes from such noises. But doesn't mean we can't go into the candy stash. You're eating your lunch. Ooh, what's for lunch? Anytime I say that, I'm instantly brought back to like the Hungry Hungry Hippos advert. Anytime I go, oh, what's for lunch? Because that was like the main thing. Like the whole advert was like, what's for lunch? Hungry Hungry Hippos. Do 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 do. I think it was called like the eating something race. But yeah, anytime what's for dinner, it like triggers a core memory in my brain for the jingle advert that is the Hungry Hippos game. Anytime I ask that question. Ooh, vegetable soup and an entire baguette. Ooh, are you a dipper? I'm a dipper with my soup. I usually have like a cracker or a bit of toast or even a sandwich. Like if I have a whole ass sandwich and I have a soup, I will dip it in my soup. Yeah. Are you a dipper or are you, a separate, you eat the baguette and the soup, you know what I mean? What do I want? Probably these guys. Gotta refill the stash. I think I want to actually finish what's in the bowl before I refill. Because I usually, when it gets down to this point, I then like top up more stuff. And I need to finish what's in here. So it doesn't like go stale or think. Just looks sad when there's like, it's not full. You know what I mean? Plan was to dip in the soup. Ooh. So you did dip, but you dipped in something different. That's fair. That's awesome. I like that. You're like, it was a dip, but not the soup dip. That's amazing. Homemade ranch. Absolutely. You don't want it to go to waste. You are doing your due diligence, no food waste. Just thinking, I've not consumed nearly as much like ranch as a dip as I had in my childhood. That was like another standard daycare snack as well. Obviously not as good as the ultimate worms and dirt daycare snack. But vegetables with either a choice of Caesar or ranch for dipping sauce. And you could always tell if people were, if you were team ranch for dipping your raw veggies in or team Caesar. And I feel like ranch as like a condiment isn't really a thing here. Like you can get ranch, it's not like it's not available. It's just not like the same cultural staple that I feel like ranch was for me growing up. I also feel like I graduated to hummus, you know what I mean? So like now when I have veggies, like raw veggies, I'll usually dip it in hummus. Maybe I should pick up a bottle of ranch one day and just see if it still hits the same, Get some like mini carrots and some ranch dip and just see if it still hits the same. Ketchup was your child dip. I was never a ketchup person. I never was into ketchup. I was always like, especially with like hot dogs and things, always team mustard. Never a big fan of ketchup. And then I started having ketchup like a little bit on like my tater tots, or like I would have it as a dip with my fries, but that was like only ketchup with potato things, but like very rarely. And now I'm like not even interested because I'm like team mayo now. I always thought it was so weird, the people who would like get mayo as a dip with their fries when I was back in Canada, and then I moved here and now I'm like, I have mayo with everything. It's like a problem. Yeah. It's interesting here because if you get mustard in the UK, the like default is like Dijon mustard, so it's like that sort of tangy horseradishy mustard, which is a very strong and overbearing for a lot of people. Whereas I just want like it's like American mustard, so you have to ask specifically. So like the French's like fluorescent yellow mustard, that's French's mustard, which I think is a bit more. It's like not the Dijon-y whatever. But yeah, here in the UK, if you want mustard, you have to specify that you want American mustard, or else they'll give you like the horseradishy Dijon mustard, which like doesn't hit the same. You know what I mean? So yeah, love mayo with your fries. Yeah, honestly, I was never that person, and now I'm like literally mayo with everything, especially with the fries. Mayo with hash browns, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, American mustard with some like gluten-free Polish bratwurst. You gotta make sure it's not like filled with like breadcrumbs and shit. But yeah, like OG, like kubasa bratwurst with some American mustard. Excellent. 10 out of 10. Did I finish this? No, not yet. I think the interesting thing now is once we finish this first page, which I know we are going to, the question is, which direction do we go in? You know what I mean? Because this is the center point of the project. Do we go onto this page? Do we do this page? Do we do this page? Which page do we pick next? I wonder if we do the page up here, if there will be a lot more white space, and then we can feel more accomplished and we can possibly finish that page quicker. That's possibly an option, but we'll see. We have to finish this page first before we can go making any sort of next steps. I feel like working left to right. That makes sense, yeah. So it might end up that way, like possibly it's clockwise, so we would probably be doing a little bit of that, you know? But we'll see. to the end of this thread. This bit of floss. So, need to, oh, don't come out, don't come out. Oh, it's so close. Oh, perfect, okay, good. Last thing I like is like when things are a bit, when the floss is getting that bit too small or a bit too short, and then you want to flip it and park it without it slipping out of the needle and having to rethread. At least that's my goal. So, I think we managed to do that. And yeah. Cutting it close though. We're just gonna go to these guys. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's secure enough. Oh, I'm gonna have to go into the candy stash again. It's one of those where I'm like not particularly hungry, but it's like I think my body is trying to like tell me something, so I get like that tiny, not like crazy shakes, but that little bit where I'm like, God damn it, like don't, you know? Oh. I'm like, I just want to cross stitch. Okay. Where are we at? We did what, 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, I think. Woo! Want to catch the thread here. Did you slip out? Oh, no you didn't. Whew, good. Thought maybe it did. That would have been annoying. But we caught it. Excellent. Excellent, excellent. Okay. Let's power through these last ones. Yeah, I'm interested to know what page we will do next. Yeah, I'm hoping that No Face we'll be able to do No Face in a single stream, and then we can work more on this. I want to try to work more on this tomorrow as well, since again we're sort of like final frontiering. I need to fix Gigi's eyes too, but other than that, it's like so many little things. I'm getting a haircut tomorrow, so you'll see. To be fair, I'll probably look the exact same. It's just because I haven't had a haircut since like March. And Liam's cousin, the one who just recently had a baby, is like a barber, and she's usually the one who ends up cutting like all the family's hair. But I'm like, I don't want to bother them. She like literally just gave birth, but I'm in due for a haircut. Just because like it's to the point now where if I can put my hair in a bun and I still have like a massive tail, like basically to the bottom of my head, I'm like, this is too much. I need to like cut off this dead weight, you know? Just get her gone. Like reshape it a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. To be fair, it was a salon that I used to go to when I first moved here. I haven't been there in years. Yeah. Oh, wow. Are you growing it out, or are you keeping it, like, are you shaving it yourself? Yeah, let's see how it goes. I think because originally too, like I was going, but then yeah, it was kind of like, oh, like when Liam's cousin's available, like she would do it and stuff. And then also like when all the COVID stuff happened, I was like, well, why would I go to a place, you know what I mean, like stranger danger, and also like put people that I care about at risk when I can just sort of keep everything kind of within the family and also supporting, you know, family and things like that. But 'tis needs must, you know, needs must. Don't know why that's so fuzzy, but it's all good. I'm growing it out. Oh, wow. Oh, that's amazing. So you shaved it and it's up to your shoulder. So this has been like years of growing. That's really cool. Do you have like a sort of end goal length in mind, or is it one of those you're just going to continue to grow it out until you're like, I'm bored of this, and then do something else again? You know what I mean? 'Cause I feel like that's what happens with me. I'm like, you know, I'm not super concerned about all of it, but then every once in a while, what usually happens is I end up getting bored. I like, sounds really dumb, but I'll like kind of look at myself and I'll just be like, meh, I need to do something. And usually what ends up happening is 9 times out of 10, I either cut or dye my hair, or both. So I'm going to cut it and see if that satisfies my, like, desire to, you know, I think it will, but it's been about 1.5 years. Okay, wow. That's cool. Shaved it because my co-parent. I look like a poodle, so now I'm grown. Oh, okay. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. You were like, I need to sort of. It's sort of like a reset. You know what I mean? You're like, I need to reset this, and then I can sort of. That's cool. Yeah. I know my brother-in-law. Every once in a while, he gets the urge. So he recently, I think it's growing back a bit now. Basically, he shaved his head, and then it actually was really convenient because then he went as Kratos from God of War for Halloween because he had a massive beard. He has now shaved the beard off and looks 12 because he's doing Movember, and is slowly growing out a mustache. But yeah, he frequently just goes, you know, I'm sick of this, and then shaves his head on a whim. So. Yeah, and then I had a friend who had a shaved head for years. In fact, the entire time I had known him, he had a shaved head. And then obviously I moved away and was visiting a few years ago. And I was like, oh, we met up, I think, for like coffee or something like that. And he had hair. And I was like, this is weird. I'm like, you don't usually have hair. It wasn't like it was a lot. It's not like he just suddenly had grown his hair out. But the fact that his head wasn't shaved, I was like, you don't look like yourself to me. Yeah, brother told me to really. Oh, interesting. That's really interesting. I didn't realize that it would make like that. I guess, yeah. That like hormones would be tied to like hair texture. But who knows, man? Like hormones can impact and involve with a lot of stuff. Where you see my mom with her hair? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Did she decide to... So did she decide to shave it, like, before she started chemo? Or, because I don't know if this, I don't know, it just seems to be a thing that people do, like, instead of, I don't know, like, having their hair come out in, like, chunks or something, I guess, maybe, they just shave it. Or it gets to a point where it's, like, just easier to do that. Does it suit her head? You know what I mean? I feel like some people, it's like, even though you've known them their entire life, that's what I remember too. My grandma used to dye her hair all the time, and then she just decided to let it grow out, and now she has like white hair. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, it was jarring, because I'm like, wait, what? My grandma's never had white, like, gray hair or white hair my entire life. And then all of a sudden she just like had full snow white hair. And I was like, now, like, it, you know what I mean? Like, it suits her and stuff, but it was just, like, I was so not used to it that it's sort of like when somebody drastically alters their appearance. It's not that the look doesn't suit them, it's just that your brain has to, like, adjust to, like, your image of that person, and then you go, oh, okay, yeah, well, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. She had a day where a clump fell out and she just shaved it that day. Fair enough, man. Even that doesn't cause hair loss with the first... Right, yeah. Yeah, she's got a nice head. That's awesome. Yeah, so she's having that, like, growth back, but obviously it's, like, different. That's really cool. Yeah, I feel like there's probably so many people that actually do look amazing bald, but they just never, you know, either, yeah, think about doing that, or they have, like, attachments to certain, like, types of hair. Like, my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law, like, they both have really long hair. And my sister-in-law is, like, obsessed, like, with her husband's hair to the point where it's, like, a problem. Like, if he were to ever decide... I don't think he ever would. But I think if he had decided he didn't want to have long hair anymore, I think she would be devastated. I think it would actually be, like, a point of contention. Is it Symphonic Panda? Thank you so much for the follow. Thank you for being here. I always love people's, like, really interesting usernames. Like, I'm always just like, oh, that's so cool. She's taking hair growth vitamins now. Oh, that's cool. That's nice. That's probably, like, the best baseline to see. You cried while she shaved her head? Did you ever, did you shave it sort of, like, in solidarity with her? You know what I mean? Or that was just, like, they were just different, circumstances? Right? You. Right. I thought it was interesting. I've never seen a bot that has, like, follower badges. Mark, yeah. Oh, of course. Absolutely. Yeah. She wouldn't let me do it again. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I guess in a way too, like, the act of, like, your mom maybe shaving her head sort of made the fact that she has cancer that much more real to you. So I could see how that could be, like, it's literally not about the head shaving, it's about what the head shaving represents, and so I could see how that would be quite an emotional thing. Definitely. Yeah. This is the one that shaped it. Oh. Yeah. Absolutely. That was nice of your sister to be the one to do that, though. Because then I'm sure she'd know how to do it. Like, I guess it depends, like, how, like, if you wanted to be, like, even and closer, like, all that kind of stuff, right? So, I assume there's a little bit of finesse to help keep it, like, nice and even. So it's good that she was able to do that for her. Okay, almost closed the gap, friends. Oh, really? Yeah. But if they have that, so if they have that closeness, you know what I mean? Like you said, you can't pick your relatives, but you can pick your family, right? So they could still have that closeness despite that. Oh, maybe because I was thinking of like doing this because I sort of have been moving this way, but now we're up here. Maybe we move that way and try to make it to that corner over there. Ooh, I don't know. We have some options. We have options in terms of the colors we choose to pursue. Need to see how much. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard when you work in a lot of like person facing roles where you are interacting with a lot of people, and then that can obviously make things more difficult in terms of risk level for her. Yeah. That's a tough balance. That's absolutely, because you have to, make those sort of calls, right? And so it's whether or not, you know that visits are potentially a risk, but you kind of do everything you can to mitigate them and stuff like that, right? Because it's a fine balance between trying to keep people as safe as possible, but also allowing them to still sort of live their life, right? You don't want to keep them locked up in a bubble for forever if they're gonna, miss out on opportunities that they want to participate in. So yeah, that's definitely a very tough balance to strike. Like, I do not envy you guys in terms of having to navigate that. But it sounds like you are finding that balance, or at least, going through the process of finding that balance, so that's good. Ooh, 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 ooh. Oh no, have we... Oh no, nope, there it is. Excuse me not. No knots. Snot a knot, please. Yeah. That's nice. That's probably, like, yeah. It's probably nice for her as well, eh? I don't know if your mom is, like, by nature quite a social person. Because I think sometimes that's a difficult balance as well. Because I noticed that especially, like, with COVID and with, like, isolating and things like that, like, regardless of health circumstances, just when all that was sort of happening, I, being quite an introverted person, didn't mind staying home, not going out to places, doing those things. But I knew a lot of introverts that really struggled to, like, spend time by themselves in their house. So yeah, it can be difficult when it's for your own safety, but if you are quite an outgoing person, that can be difficult. You know what I mean? But if your mom is like me and is quite the introvert, she probably, aside from having to deal with all that kind of stuff, yeah, she is very social. Yeah, so I'm sure she's looking forward to getting to experience that a little bit more again. Also loving just being able to walk. Yeah, absolutely, right? Yeah, the little victories are absolutely, I think, essential to be celebrating. You know what I mean? Alright, let's just fill in these half stitches. And then, what is our next POA? The next plan of action is... oh, maybe we do that one. Possibly. I think that's going to be the plan. Like, I've gone through 3 different potential colors that we're going to move on to, but I think I've narrowed down to the one that I would like to pursue. Yeah. Yeah, that would be the dream, eh? For some people. I know for me personally, that would be my goal would be. Data analyst. Is that like, is it sort of like a course that you do at your own schedule? You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those, like, self-learning courses that you have maybe, like, however many, like, months or years to finish, but it's sort of like an at your own pace thing? Or is it like an actual course, like class sort of thing that you're taking? Flip it. Park it. Oh yeah, Google Courses. Oh, okay. No, I'm changing my mind again. I'm like, I was gonna do one color, but I've changed my mind. I want to do this color. I'm like, it's my pattern. I do what I want. I want to do this color. Think of all of the colors. I don't know, actually. It's a toss-up between this one and the purple one in terms of my favorite color in this palette. of options. This is going to require a little bit of counting on our part, but we will try our best. I have to move this out of the way. Pause it when she went to hospital. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's completely understandable. Is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Triple check here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. What? Oh my god, my brain just like literally. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. Okay. I'm gonna half stitch these. Trying to cover as much ground in the next like 5 minutes. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this one over 3 down 1. That's 1, 2, 3. I believe 1, 2, 3 down 1. 1, 2, 3. Down 1. Then we can pop this back over here. First, a little bit of these stitches here. Mark these off so I don't get confused. Okay. Yes, okay. And then this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. Fingers, oh my god, how many hours do you have left? I'm like, what time is it there? You're 5 hours, eh? So it's, yeah, it's just gone noon. Do you work 9 to 5? What's your current hour situation? Five, and then this actually is here. That would be awesome if you could be like, yo, I'm done my work for the day. I will just sit here and work on some crafts, please. 4. Yeah, so you still have a few. Oh, jeez. Ah, jeez. Ah, jeez, Scoob. Just sounds like it's dragging. That's always the worst. Okay, and then this one will come over into here. 7 to 4. Yeah, so it's just, yeah, so it is, it's the 8 hours. One, two, three. Yeah, it's like you need something small sort of that isn't gonna, yeah. I know what you mean, because it's like you have a stash of like all of the stuff, and then it can be difficult to cart all of that. It's like if you did, I guess if you did like digital art, then you could have like a tablet, and then you could just like doodle on that. But when we are of the fiber art varieties, there's a little bit more than just like a couple things, you know? There's a lot more going on than that. Hear the little princess in the distance. Try digital art. I figured out. Yeah, right. I feel the same way. I'm like, I can do Canva in terms of like pre-made stuff, but yeah, it's not something I see myself as. If anyone has any raid suggestions, let me know. If not, we'll go see which of our friends is doing their thing. So yeah, we've done some. Oh, did I just fling the needle? Oh, good thing it stayed on there. Jeez. Okay. Bless you, sir. Jeez, making all of the noises, aren't ya? Yeah? Okay. Not bad, not bad. So this is the other color that is the majority of the section. So hopefully, once I fill that in, we will be so much closer to the final page. Basically, I need to finish this page before Friday so that we can start on page 2, or at least be so close so that we can start page 2 on the Friday. So Friday is the last day of Studio Ghibli month to work on this. So I really want to try to finish this page and then go on to the next one. Let's see which of our friends are currently online. And we'll go find someone to hang out with. Make sure that it is not gonna come on. Missile, Dragon Rider, Mickey. Ah, Seabird Studio is on. Let's see what they're doing. Maybe we go and see them. Ooh, they're making some little rug hooking birds, either like a mallard or like a puffin. So maybe we'll go do that. Right? Aw, thank you. Thank you for the confidence vote. Yeah, I'm gonna try my damnedest and we are gonna make it happen. And then, like I said, Thursday we're gonna be working on No Face. And then the following Tuesday will be our countdown, and that is the rest of our, you know, Ghibli stuff before we transition to December, which I'm 99% sure is gonna be Disney month. And yeah, it's gonna be a fun time. We will be working on, oh, did they just... Squeeze me. Why can I not? Oh, maybe there's a certain amount? Interesting. Yeah, there. That's weird. Okay. Let's go and say hi to them. And see what they're up to. And then, yeah, we will hopefully... If you're interested in the progress of this, come back on Friday, and then hopefully we will be on page 2 of like 16. And then, yeah, if not, join me on Thursday where we're going to be tackling some needle felting. And then hopefully I will have finished GG by that point, and so we can do official GCU unveiling lineup. Yeah, excellent, excellent. Let us go and do that, and I will see you guys